another thing would be like return customer rate, which is like hilarious because you think like they buy this wallet, it literally lasts forever, generations. Like they're not buying another wallet, so
Yeah.
I gotta cross sell, or come up with new products, which is Kyle's, like that's his wheelhouse. That's why we work well together. He comes out with new products, I do all the nerdy stuff, and we go.
Hey, Modern Commerce, welcome back. We've got another hot interview for you today. We're continuing on with our How to Build a Brand series. John's been really grabbing us some great interviews with some great players in all of e-commerce, all over the place, all different kinds of brands. And today is no exception. John, how you doing? And who do you have for us today?
I'm doing good, Casey. Thank you for asking. Today, I'm excited about our guest. Super cool guy. We've gotten to know him a little bit. Building a really cool vertically integrated brand. Today we have Tim Aton of Range Leather, based out of Wyoming. You know, representing the what's Wyoming, cowboy state, maybe.
Yeah, 500,000. The size of half of Denver at best.
There might be more cows. There might be more cows than people in Wyoming.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like 4 to 1. Like
antelope too.
Yeah, a lot more cows. But yeah, Range Leather. Tim, give us a little bit of background on you. Give us a little bit of background on the brand.
Yeah. So kind of interesting. Basically, Range started in 2014. I'm not the founder. I'm an ops guy that was brought in later, but my buddy Kyle, he started the brand in 2014, really just like as a hobby pretty much. And then, he made a wallet, he made a few other things. He had a previous brand that he wanted to do a leather guitar strap for actually. But the leather products kind of caught hold, and, he started doing like local craft shows and stuff. He happened to be living in the same town as I was, and I was in kind of the startup scene that was in Spokane, Washington on the east side. So we met and talked shop, and I actually helped him sew the first few wallets. He ran a Kickstarter a little bit after that, and then he moved back to Laramie here. I stayed in Spokane, and so our paths kind of went separate ways. We stayed in touch. He grew Range slowly out of his house. Just kind of the same thing, like making leather stuff, and going to craft fairs and improving the product. And then I went into digital marketing. So I joined an agency in Spokane, then went from there to Homestead Studio, which some of you may know. Had a great time there. Went freelance for a little bit, and then at the same time, Range was growing like crazy. So much so that Kyle ended up buying a building downtown Laramie and moving kind of the small team at the time in there. And a little bit after that, he called me up and said, "Hey, I don't know if you're how you're feeling about the agency side of things, but if you ever wanted to flip to the brand side, I think it'd be really rad if you came and helped me run this leather brand." So long story short, here I am, and run the brand now. So yeah, it's been really fun.
So you moved from Spokane, Washington. Were you born and raised in Spokane?
No, actually. So I spent my adult life in Spokane. So I definitely identify with the Pacific Northwest, but I actually grew up in Laguna Beach, in SoCal. So that's where I was from, and then moved to Spokane, and then picked up, the wife and kids, and moved all the way down to small town in Wyoming. Yeah.
Where you got a house for $200.
Yep. Got my house, got my Jeep Wrangler, and it's all I need.
Truck. Yep. Fun fact. Casey and I are born and raised in Coeur d'Alene, which is right next door to Spokane. And
super sick place.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So representing the PNW here.
Casey, you are an absolute beast right now. You're churning out so many creatives across multiple brands. What is it that is so hard about producing such a high volume of creatives? Why can't more brands do it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say if you're doing it the right way, of course, you should be always analyzing your past ads, the things you've already churned out, your most recent test group that you've put out. And that should inform your next round of creation, not just go all willy-nilly about it. So I would say that's why it's difficult to speed up that process, is because it's always kind of a two-pronged approach of analyzing and creation, really.
So how is it that you are able to do that across like 12 to 15 accounts?
Yeah, I mean, it does get pretty wild, but honestly, when I use Pencil, it's not as bad. Pencil is a tool that I use. It's got AI that'll help determine what my best ads are. It'll even break it down into the best elements of those ads. And in that platform, it'll automatically generate new ads for me to launch, and I can push them live straight from the platform into Facebook, IG. It also works great for other platforms as well, like TikTok, whatever you're on, really. If you sound like me and you're always in the weeds with your creatives, you need a little bit more analytics. You just need some help with new creation. You need things to be sped up a little bit. Use our promo code. Go to trypencil.com, use promo code ModCom15. You'll save 15% off on any paid plan. You sure can start with a free plan, John. I mean, hey, I'll recommend it. Go ahead and try it for free. But once you do, we're pretty confident you're going to want to switch to a paid plan anyway. So don't forget, you can use that promo code ModCom15 at trypencil.com. One more time, that's trypencil.com, ModCom15. Save 15% off any paid plan they have there. And back to the show.
So appreciate the background on range. So one thing that I actually think is a huge highlight of range, and something we're trying to talk about on this podcast a little bit more as we talk about how do you actually build brands, right? What are those difference makers, right? Because at the core, you guys sell, nothing. I shouldn't say nothing special, but they're hats, they're wallets. You didn't invent any of the products, right? Like they're hats, they're wallets, they're everyday carry type stuff. What are those moats that Range has? One of them is vertical integration, right? Like you aren't sourcing products, you are sourcing materials.
Yeah. So we craft everything here. Like I'm at the building right now where we have like 8 leather crafters and then another 8 or so hat team. And so yeah, we bring in the leather and the hardware, and then it ends up, and we also have all the stock and pick pack ship here. So we don't have a 3PL or anything as well, which has pros and cons in itself. But yeah, we have it all here, and it's more of a management on the material side than it is on the we have less of those gaps that we have to manage because it's all right here in the building for sure.
Right. Yeah, and what, like some people, well, why is vertical integration a moat? A couple things that I'll call out, and I don't have a lot of experience with vertical integration. So you have obviously more since you're the COO of a vertically integrated company. But there's a couple that I'll call out that I think maybe aren't so or maybe are obvious, but are like, hey, when you're not a vertically integrated e-com brand, you don't think about this. Number one is typically your margins, your product gross margins are probably far better than anyone who could sell a competitor product or a similar kind of product or another wallet that, might appeal to the same audience. You probably have better gross margins on your product than they do if they're sourcing product. Number two is the optimization. And this is like, as a marketer, and we were talking about this a little bit off camera, as a marketer, it's really cool to see that, like, not only can I optimize my ad campaigns, like if I can make my crafters this much more efficient, like I actually shave this much off my cost of goods. So you can optimize your cost per acquisition, your pricing of your products, and the actual cost of goods sold on your products, which is, it's harder to optimize when you're sourcing products. I mean, at scale, you can negotiate supplier terms and stuff like that, of course. But other advantages that you have, or you can speak more to those if there's some stuff I didn't touch on, but any other things that you want to call out about being vertically integrated that really kind of makes it a moat for a brand?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is that one of, especially as a marketer, having the marketing side background, is the unlock of the other levers. Like you already have, as a marketer, I'm used to having all the front end levers of the ads, the creative, the audiences, the retention, emails, all that stuff, and site, and that whole front end. But what's nice about being here and being vertically integrated is the whole back half too, and being able to earn the same, if not better, yield from doing things behind the scenes like that. And just the amount like the level of deepness that you can get with like I know the margin on every product. And so when I'm doing the buying on the media side, it's like I can kind of play with those numbers as I see, and even going further, knowing like, oh, I know I have, you know, X square feet of, you know, or X amount of hides of that leather. So we could scale into that if we needed to, and then be able to use that to be like, well, you know, we have that much leather. I'm going to take a cut on the margin side, give myself a little more CPA to work with, and buy off of that. Like there's just a lot more levers and aspects that I have control of, that it's not like, well, this is just the number I was given, I got to like buy to that. And but that's, you know, coming from my kind of marketing angle. And then yeah, the margins play a big part of that. And for us, we probably could have better margins, but we stick to like the quality, really high quality materials. So that's kind of what, you know, we can play with. Where we play with the cost more is the product development side. So like, how can we use a rivet instead of hand stitching this, or stuff like that, getting creative on that front.
Well, and I mean, and I should say, and I don't mean to cheapen the product or anything like that by saying your margins are way better than competitor products.
Totally.
I'll say, you know, probably better than competitor products that would try and use similar materials, right?
Yeah. And we don't have to, like, if we did decide to go that route, we would have way better margins. So your theory is 100% right, I think. And we've just, as a brand, chosen to sacrifice some margin for the materials we've chosen. But for like the audience here, if they're like, they could totally lean the other direction and go for cost saving materials in the front end, and that will buy a lot more margin. And if you can focus on that, that's as big of a win as, you know, finding the next UGC that works or whatever on the front end.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thought to essentially say like, okay, what do I have material wise, you know, a lot of, or something like that, or what can I get, like, because material costs fluctuate more. I mean, if I'm understanding correctly, like my hard goods cost, if I'm sourcing product, a lot of times don't have tons of fluctuation, like month to month, let's say, whereas material costs do have more fluctuation in shorter time periods. So it's like, if you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, what materials, like of all my products, you know, what can I get cheap on the material side now, the materials that we already use, right? Or how can I improve the efficiency, and then essentially buy okay, I can get a whole bunch of that material right now, and it's on the low end, and this other material's on the high end. Well, that actually gives me this much more, right? You know, this gives me 5 or 10 or 20% more on the CAC, that will give me the same like net profit on acquiring that. So yeah, I think this is, you know, it like, as a marketer, like if you can kind of sink your teeth into that, this is probably one of the first things that you're like, oh wow, I have more levers now, you know, to pull.
Yeah, super exciting. Yeah, and then like you're saying, kind of on the front end too, is like the pricing. So there's just so many more levers across the board, and even like going deeper into what you're saying, like, okay, I know I have a giant order for this kind of leather, but it's going to take 6 months. What do we have to last until then? And that can influence my marketing strategy, because it's like, okay, then I know I'm going to launch, you know, XYZ with that leather, and I can build a launch kind of promo schedule up into that. And then I can work my way backwards into what I should be pushing now. And it's all influenced together and working together, instead of just like, this is just how it is, make it work, or just being blind altogether to that side of it. It's super helpful.
Yeah. So moving on from vertical integration a little bit here, like tell me about some of the other reasons, whether they be moats. I think some of them are moats. Some of them may be things that you guys just do well that aren't necessarily a competitive advantage, or an advantage that you have, like that someone couldn't replicate, someone else could do it well too. But talk about some of the other reasons you think Range has, because you're not in a non-competitive space, right? Like you're in an accessories, everyday carry space. There's a lot of D2C brands in this space, you know, with working different angles is a way to put it, but like, you know, that have different USPs. We've worked with multiple kind of hard goods, wallet brands. I mean, this was one of the most popular categories on Kickstarter not that long ago. So yeah, I mean, why do you think Range, besides the vertical integration aspect, I think that's definitely a big part of it, but besides that, what do you think other reasons are that range has emerged?
Yeah, I think, well, like one huge aspect of our business is B2B and wholesale. That's like, and talking to a lot of, like in the D2C space, there's like not a ton of talk other than maybe Fair, which we're pretty strong on, but it's not our biggest channel. And some people put like omni-channel into that category as well, which you could say, but because we have, when I say wholesale, we have private label, like we basically do custom hats. So we'll stamp like anybody's logo into the hat, into the patch on the hat. And then we have like our stock hats that, big box retailers will buy in pallets and resell. So, yeah, that's kind of, I think that's a huge piece, and we can get into that. Yeah, that, and then I would say like the biggest kind of on the other side, the biggest USP, like if I look at our post-purchase surveys and all that on kind of the front end thing is like we make it here. Like the crafters are right out there. Like if you come to Laramie and you walk into our shop, it's like Krispy Kreme style. Look at it get made. Like you can talk to the people making the stuff. So that's also like a huge element that like I've just recently gotten to really put forward on the digital side, on the site and in ads. Like I'm working with Tarfers and all that good stuff. So I think between those two, like the wholesale and like that we make everything here, it's like literally by hand crafting out there. I think those are the two other big pieces that we can lean on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from a marketing aspect, when like I can actually like, I will say some of my best performing ads ever have like literally been like phone videos of like the thing being made. If the thing is made, that like if I can, I don't go to China to shoot those, right? So
yeah,
that's, that has to happen here. If the thing's made here, like those are great. That's like great ad material, which I guess that kind of could be called, yeah, that's another advantage of vertical integration. Maybe, but like, yeah, for sure. And then I think the B2B thing is interesting because it's not necessarily, I would say it's a moat of yours, but it's not like it's unattainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
For everyone else. So talk about that a little bit. Like what, why, because I think, I've said this before, like, look, if you have a retail presence or B2B presence or some kind of marketplace presence that provides like a baseline, a foundation of cash, it makes it easier. Like, people are worried, like, well, won't it cannibalize my D2C? Like it might a little bit. For example, Amazon, and I don't know how big you guys are in Amazon. We can get into that, but Amazon might cannibalize your D2C a little bit, maybe, but like it's probably worth it to have that foundation of cash to drive D2C. And ultimately it's like a rising tide rises all ships. So like, yeah, maybe Amazon cannibalizes a little bit or B2B cannibalizes a little bit. But maybe it doesn't. And ultimately it isn't the goal to like drive more sales and profit anyway. So yeah, I'm a big fan these days, essentially, of having some kind of B2B or Amazon or wholesale cash. So talk about how you guys do it. Cause it's not the same. It's not like, it's not like a lot of brands who go to retail stores or go to Amazon. You guys do it a little bit differently. So yeah, like let's chat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think like the hard part to replicate would be the custom side. That's something that like we just, because we have everything here and we have like the machines, like we bought these like super expensive Kensal machines that like just do like they brand the leather instead of laser it. That's a whole thing. But anyway, aside from that, I think like when you think about retail and maybe even like the label of omni-channel, or like going into, I listened to a podcast with like Chris Mead from CrossNet recently. I'm like getting into Target, getting into these like Dick's Sporting Goods and stuff. And those are huge, obviously, but it's a lot more attainable than a lot of brands think, I think. Because, and there's a lot of franchises and brands like box stores that are run, like their GMs run the show. And like for us, a big stem from that, like how we achieved getting into whoever, was just like, essentially we went to the Magnolia Silo show down in Waco with our hats and all our stuff. And that's basically where we met. Like essentially people buy our hat, whoever, the buyer of some brand that we didn't even know, they buy our hat, they wear it for a while, they love it, and they're like, I wonder if we could sell these. And that's kind of, they just, people reached out. We haven't done much cold outreach, and we're actually beginning to kind of go down that road. But I think it's like, to zoom back out, it's not as huge of a deal as you think. Like putting one team member on, like, hey, reach out to a third string box store, and as soon as you get one, like if you get one store, you get a sell-through rate, you have all this data, and then you can go to the next one and be like, hey, we're with this person, here's our minimum quantity, and here's kind of the average order, and here's the sell-through rate, and then it kind of just carries on from there. So I think that's like, it's a little bit easier than you might think to just like kick it off, and then you get the ball rolling from there.
Yeah, that and I mean, I'll throw a little bit of an ad in there. I don't do this anymore. I actually used to be the buyer and manager for like what you're talking about, a third string box store, not even a third string box store, one location store. Okay, it's really easy. It's really easy to get your product on my shelf. If you have some data. Or if you're doing some marketing, or if people have come in and asked for it, or if you just give me good terms. All you have to do is give me good terms. Like, even not on consignment. Like, obviously, I'll sell stuff on consignment if I have space for it. But like, I'll buy a bulk order. But if you will have some kind of buyback program or anything like that, that will, hey, whatever you haven't sold after 90 days or 120 days, I'll buy back half of it or something like that. Then yeah, like that, it's not that hard to get into like local regionals. And then like you said, from there you get data on the sell-through rate, or maybe it's not selling and you have to think about, hey, what can we do to support retail a little bit more? But yeah, I mean, I think I agree, going to shows. The other thing is, put one team member on it. Like, it's just a legwork thing, or it's not like there aren't services out there. You know what I mean?
Definitely,
like if you just go on Google, you'll find someone who will probably help you get into retail, and they probably already have connections, with buyers at least mid-tier big box stores, or mid-tier box stores, probably big box stores as well, though it might be hard to get into those when you're not proven yet. But I appreciate it. So one of the things that I'm going to call out here, a pattern I'm noticing as we talk through some of the things that have helped build Range Leather, is you guys throw fuel on the fire that exists. And this is what I always say, like, marketing can't create a fire. Marketing is just fuel. It's gasoline, right? Like, if there's no fire, all you have is a bunch of like wet logs, right? Like, it doesn't make fire. But like, if we've talked, like, what have we called out here? We've called out, hey, the fact that I can have all these optimization levers on vertical integration, the fact that we can wholesale and go to B2B because we have this customization aspect. It's a little bit easier for us, right? And we can stamp, like, localized stuff onto our hats. Or even like, hey, in our marketing, in our ads, like, we can lean into this idea of like, look, it's made here. You guys are throwing fuel on the moat, right? Like, it's like, hey, this is the moat. This is the thing that we have. This is our big competitive advantage. Everything we do leverages that, right? So I think that, like, when I see brands that really grow and really do well, that's what they do well. They leverage what it is that makes them them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What keeps, the unique selling prop, the whole, like, anything that makes you special, just lean into that. And I mean, it's, like you said, it's easier to push that than to try to like force a product that's like the same as everything else,
Yeah. So, and I will call you mentioned CrossNet. We had the former marketing director. He's not with CrossNet anymore. Former marketing director of CrossNet on the podcast. Probably, I don't know how many episodes ago now. Casey would know if he hopped in here, but we had him on a couple episodes ago, and we actually shot 2 episodes with him. So yeah, it should be.
It's been a couple of weeks now, for sure. It's been a few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not watching it live, Casey will probably link that episode.
Go watch it right now. Woo woo.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit, Tim, because one thing that I think that happens when we do these like building a brand podcasts, I try and avoid this, but a lot of times when you, like, your podcast listener, you hear founders, internal marketers, people who've built brands, like, what is the podcast? It's the highlight reel, right? Like it's basically like, look how awesome we are, which I do think you're awesome. I think Range Leather's awesome. But I do want to talk about, like, what are some of the setbacks you guys have experienced since you've been with Range? And you can say, hey, here's how we got past that. Or you can even say, like, we actually haven't figured out, like, that one fully yet. Like, that one's still a struggle. That's always, it's a struggle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you some struggles I have right now. I mean, one that's not as much marketing related is the material, like getting leather here and getting hardware here. And we get our leather from Horween in Chicago. It's the one shop that everybody gets their leather from. So they just run, and they're good at leather, and they're, they're working out their business process. So our lead times are never accurate there. Our hardware is always super far out, or like the MOQs are so big that we have to like plan that out. And we're all pretty much cash flow too. So that's a factor. So that's one thing. Another thing would be like return customer rate, which is like hilarious because you think like they buy this wallet, it literally lasts forever, generations. Like they're not buying another wallet. So yeah. I got to cross sell, or come out with new products, which is Kyle's, like, that's his wheelhouse. That's why we work well together. He comes out with new products. I do all the nerdy stuff and we go. But so there's that whole thing. And then another kind of broad topic struggle zone for not struggle, but just like a low, like working on it all the time is our retention. Like we're great because I'm a bread and butter digital marketer. The front end customer acquisition side got it on lock. The retention, bring people back by again, email, SMS, all that, even working CX into it. That's all like slowly building up flows, getting the best practices upload, like doing that whole thing. That's also a big top of mind topic for me right now. So I think those are kind of the big three challenges, which happy to dig into more if you want. But yeah,
when you call it out, I'm gonna hit one that is a common one, and that was CLTV, and I've discussed this in various formats with different founders. But here's something I want to hit is here's something people wouldn't expect. Like, why is customer lifetime value a problem for a brand that knows from their post-purchase customer survey data that people are like, I really love that you make this here. You know what I mean? Like, this is really cool. People really enjoy the product. They get it. It lasts forever. Like, you probably get great glowing testimonials. People might post about it, tell their friends about it. Why is customer lifetime value a problem? Right. And it's because every brand's trying to crack customer lifetime value now that, acquisition has gotten harder for many. And it's because it's like, well, not all brands really lend themselves to great customer lifetime values, right? Like, not all product categories are, like, if I buy, whatever, this podcast mic, like, I'm not going and, like, I like my Yeti mic, but like, look, Yeti owes us money now. And I like the Yeti mic, but like, I'm not like, I don't need another one. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that's it. Like, I don't need more of it. And that's so, like, yeah, customer lifetime value is going to be a problem for a brand like that. So that is something I want to call out, because it's like, you have this great brand, people like it. Customer experience isn't the reason you're struggling with that. It's the product category. And so it's like, okay, how do we beat that? We have to come up with new products. We have to come up with new lines that actually do lend themselves to customer lifetime value, apparel lines or hat lines, things like that, that actually, like, people will buy more of, and that's a challenge when your bread and butter has been a product category, and that's what sells. And that's what, like, expanding into new product lines and product categories is kind of expensive when they don't sell as well as your core ones. You know what I mean? Like, you really like to just focus on those core ones, but that's where you hit the scaling ceilings. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it's like, I would split out hats, because hats is like, people that buy hats have like 50 hats, and they buy an insane amount of hats. It's great. We love hats. But the leather goods is, for us, is totally a product development game, because often someone buys the wallet and they're like, I'm a Range fan forever. I will buy everything that I possibly can. And literally, we have customers that have literally one of every product that we have. and that's great. But then and that
Yeah.
has great LTV. But then we need to keep churning that product wheel to keep them going. So that's kind of been the mentality going into this year, is really ramping up our product development for the sake of the whole show. Like marketing can leverage that. Like we can cross sell better, we can upsell better. LTV goes up, all that good stuff. So that's definitely a top of mind thing for us.
Yeah. Other challenge here, that I'll call out on the LTV front is, you can't help it if you're a brand that people like to get as a gift. You know what I mean? And then it's build LTV. It really is, right? Like if my wife gets it for me, I might love it. It might be a great gift. Maybe she'll get something else from Range for me and Valentine's Day or Father's Day, but maybe not. It's like she's only getting me a couple gifts a year. And even if I love that gift, it still doesn't, it's hard to build LTV, and I'm not the one on your email list. She is, you know what I mean? So that's another challenge there. But I'll shift gears here now. So we've talked about some struggles you're having right now and we've talked about some things that Range makes Range and allows you to grow. What do you think specifically? I mean, the podcast a lot of times is about growth, marketing. What are you guys doing well? What's working well for you right now on the marketing side?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, my bread and butter forever, I'm a paid social guy, and then I branched into Google. Pretty much it's Facebook and Google. Those are our channels. I have other channels a Tribe, but those work. I don't know. Even in this really negative environment, it seems, for paid social and just kind of a digital marketing space, it's because I'm so in the weeds on margins and product and our supply chain, I can dial in our MER and just sit there and then for me, the lift isn't so much because it's my core skill set, it's not as heavy of a lift on that front. So, and that kind of goes back to the email stuff, is that's where I'm growing and building teams and stuff like that. So, and I could go into tactics for days on that, but no one tactic is going to work across the board. I mean, I'm using the stuff that's working for me is none of the stuff you see on Twitter. It's all this weird interests, single images, old school 2017 buying is still just jamming for me. So I don't know.
I would just say single image, it's just sometimes it's more clear what's working and what isn't when you start.
I think the bigger deal is the value props. I think that's what makes the difference. I've really dialed those in by product line, and it doesn't really matter the format as much as what are people identifying with. So
if we are going to get into the weeds on this, right? We're talking Facebook when we're talking interests. I think sometimes when you're split up more, you're more fragmented in your ad account, which is what everybody says not to do now. Maybe it's not as effective as if you had a more consolidated structure. But also it is a little bit clearer a lot of times, what's working and what isn't. So sometimes I think you get better at allocating spend. So what you might make up for in gained efficiency from the algorithm, you actually gain something in allocating your budget correctly. So I don't know. This is a little bit of theory. I mean, we do it, like you said, nothing works.
Just gotta test everything, man. I mean, see on Twitter, make a list, roll it out, see what happens, move on. Keep doing that.
A lot of our ad accounts look very different. My number one rule is always do what the ad account likes. So I will say this though, that you hit on, and it's something that's working for us across the board as well. As you said, hey, we're Facebook and Google. We got other channels working too. We're putting more and more into TikTok. It's definitely not playing with those yet, right? We're talking about across the board, maybe 10% of our overall budget going into TikTok, right? And then Snapchat, Pinterest, others making up even less than that. But I tweeted this, and it was one of my less popular tweets, probably because it referenced some obscure NBA players. But I said, hey man, Facebook and Twitter's like Stockton and Malone. They work really well together, and so it's or not Facebook and Twitter, sorry, Facebook and Google. Facebook and Google's like Stockton.
OGs.
Yeah, they work really well together, and they dial those two channels in. That's one of the biggest wins we've had of 2021-22 is getting good at media mixing, because you used to just be able to scale on Facebook, right? Who cares about Google? Right? You scale this up, but I mean, we've got to put one other channel in now, and But yeah, I mean, Google does really high returns a lot of the time. Google's
Even in Google, for me, it's unconventional. Like Performance Max for days just works. I don't know, man. This is fine. If it works for me, I'm good with it.
Well, thank you for being on our podcast, Tim. John, thank you for setting up these interviews, as always. Modern Commerce, thank you for watching. If you watch this far into it, please go ahead and drop a like onto the video. Leave us a comment. Do all the good things you're supposed to do. Hit the bell icon to get notifications so you don't miss any of our videos when they get uploaded. Subscribe to the channel. That tells YouTube that people are liking us, and it shows our videos to the right kind of people on YouTube more naturally. So please go ahead and do all those things. And as always, until next time, we'll see you. Hey, ModCom, this episode was brought to you by Pencil. I'm a creative strategist at the agency that John and I work at. If you happen to be a creative strategist, or you're just having a hard time rolling out enough new creatives for testing, then I have the perfect solution for you. It's trypencil.com. Over at Pencil, the AI will help you determine what your best performers are. It'll even break it down into what elements of those best performers are helping making those ads go. And it'll also take those elements and create whole new ads for you to push live straight from their platform right over to Facebook and IG. So go to trypencil.com if you want to use this, and use the promo code ModCom15 to save 15% off of any paid plan they have over there. You can always start with a free plan. Go ahead. Actually, I recommend it even, but we're confident you're going to want to upgrade as soon as you try it out. So just remember to go to trypencil.com, use the promo code ModCom15 to save 15% off of any plan. And thank you for tuning in to Modern Commerce.